Wholesale prices for domestic fresh and dry vegetables skyrocketed nearly 40% in July compared to a year ago. And that's, of course, what grocery stores pay to stock their produce aisle. So will the stores absorb the hit, or will they pass it on to you, the customer? And
vegetable prices in the U.S. are climbing faster than most shoppers even realize. Have you noticed? That bag of greens that used to be under $3 at Walmart is now well past $5. Even Costco isn't the safe zone it used to be, with prices on staple veggies getting bumped up across the board in just the past few weeks. Latest retail data shows that at least 7 of the most common vegetables have hit their highest prices since the start of the year. Some have nearly doubled in cost in just 30 days. The reason? A mix of retaliatory tariffs, backfiring supply chain disruptions, and soaring fuel costs. American shoppers, especially retirees and middle-aged workers, are feeling the hit directly without any real warning. The list ahead will break down exactly which vegetables are quietly draining wallets at the biggest grocery chains in the country right now. Number 1. Tomatoes. For decades, tomatoes have been the default item in every grocery cart. You didn't even think about it. Just reach out, toss them in, and move on to the next thing. But that time might be over. Just last week, shoppers in states like Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania started asking the same question. Why is a box of Roma tomatoes that was under $2 just a few weeks ago now pushing close to $4?
The price of your tomatoes could soon be going up, and finding them at the grocery store could become harder.
It is not a new product. The packaging hasn't changed. The difference is the price, and it has moved beyond what people are willing to absorb as part of their routine. The part that stings is how sudden it was. No warning signs. No little note saying price increase due to costs. Tomatoes just went up, and shoppers had to either adjust their menus or swallow a bigger grocery bill. The impact goes beyond the extra dollars. It reaches into everyday meal choices. For many older Americans, tomatoes are not just another vegetable. They add that gentle tang in a salad, form the base for pasta sauce, and give stews their familiar red comfort. When an ingredient like that becomes something you have to think twice about buying, the sense of food stability starts to wobble. A ripple effect is taking shape. People swap fresh tomatoes for canned ones only to find the canned prices have climbed too. Some turn to pre-made sauces and then realize the flavor is not the same. Food is no longer about making easy compromises. It has become a chain of back-to-back trade-offs. Stores are responding in their own ways, putting fewer items on the shelf, running fake feel promotions, and trying less common varieties like grape or yellow tomatoes. But none of that helps much when the average price keeps climbing week after week. Shoppers, for their part, are getting more cautious. Instead of buying a whole box, they pick out a few individual tomatoes. Instead of sticking to big supermarkets, they head to weekend farmers markets hoping for a better deal. But that often leads to another loop. Better quality means higher prices, and the total cost still does not go down. More importantly, there is a growing sense of helplessness. When something as familiar as a tomato becomes unpredictable, shoppers start to question the entire supply chain. If no one can keep the price of this little red fruit in check, how can they trust that other foods will stay stable? Consumer finance experts have one piece of advice: stop buying on autopilot. If the price jumps past your comfort zone, change the way you cook, at least for now. Keeping tabs on food prices is no longer just a habit for meticulous home cooks. It is a financial survival skill in an economy where stability has become a luxury. Number 2, lettuce. Fresh data from the USDA shows that lettuce, one of the most consumed fresh vegetables in the United States, has seen wholesale prices surge more than 30% in just the past 6 weeks. In reality, it is one of the first items hit hard by a combination of supply chain turmoil and the newly implemented import tariffs on produce from Mexico. What stands out most is how consumers are reacting. Lettuce has always been considered a hard-to-inflate item because it is easy to grow, easy to ship, and not a premium food. Yet in places like New York, Michigan, and much of the Midwest, the price has now crossed the $5 mark per head, a level not seen since 2008. The root causes run deep. First, the domestic supply has shrunk rapidly. In the past 3 months, production in California and Arizona, which together account for more than 90% of America's lettuce supply, has dropped over 25% compared to the same period last year. The issue is not a lack of land or labor, but a shortage of water and the inability to manage extreme weather risks. Prolonged heat waves coupled with soaring irrigation costs have led many smaller farms to abandon their crops altogether. Second, the import tariff on fresh vegetables from Mexico. These imports have traditionally filled the gap during peak salad season when demand surges, but higher tariffs combined with longer customs clearance times have delayed shipment after shipment, with many rerouted to Canada, which now offers new tax incentives for Latin American produce. The third factor, less discussed, is the hidden pricing strategy used by major supermarket chains. Instead of raising the sticker price for each head of lettuce, they reduce the weight and number of leaves in prepackaged bags. A bag that used to last for 3 servings now barely covers 1 or 2. Shoppers often do not notice until they find themselves buying a second bag just days later. The problem is not about whether lettuce is worth the price. It is about the fact that for many older Americans, this leafy green is a daily staple in a healthy diet. Dieters, diabetics, and those with high blood pressure all rely on it to replace starches and red meat in their meals. When lettuce prices spike this fast, the first casualty is not the wallet, but long-standing eating habits. Meals no longer start with a salad, menus no longer center around greens, and trust in the stability of the food system erodes quietly before anyone realizes it. Internal forecasts from retail distributors suggest prices could keep rising into the fourth quarter if drought conditions stretch into September. That means leafy greens, once considered a basic choice, might soon be something shoppers think twice about before adding to their carts. Number 3, potatoes. Most people have not noticed, but over the past few weeks, potato bags at major supermarkets like Walmart, Target, and Winco Foods have been getting lighter. It is not because people are eating less, it is because the bags are smaller, the prices are higher, and the quality is lower. Each factor by itself might seem minor, but together they add up to a change no one can ignore. Right now, potatoes are seeing an average retail price increase of nearly 30%. Especially for prepackaged bags. No longer the filling and cheap food they used to be, potatoes are now on the list of groceries people have to think twice about before tossing into their carts. Even instant mashed potato packets, a lifesaver for many middle-class families at the end of the month, are now 50 to 70 cents more expensive depending on the region. For weekly shoppers, that difference is almost unavoidable. The most visible impact is not in the price chart, but in consumer behavior. Many families are cutting back on how often they use potatoes in their meals. Dishes like baked potatoes, homemade fries, or potato soup, once staples for seniors and working-class households, are suddenly becoming surprisingly luxury items. Some shoppers are switching to smaller bags, buying oddly shaped seconds to save money, or removing potatoes from their shopping list entirely. That leads to another consequence: nutritional instability. Not everyone can afford to replace potatoes with other vegetables, which are also seeing similar price jumps. When potatoes are cut out, many households are left with no real substitute, especially older adults who need a light, easy-to-digest, high-energy diet. From a distribution standpoint, the instability is spreading. Supermarkets report smaller inventories, not because potatoes are selling faster, but because orders from suppliers are being cut back. Many shelves now sit half empty or carry only the most expensive varieties. Discount potatoes are rare, and in densely populated middle-income neighborhoods, they have all but disappeared. So what should shoppers do? For now, it's about changing the approach. If you used to buy by habit or by the standard bag size, this is the time to switch to buying by unit price. Read the per-pound label carefully, and do not grab something just because it is marked on sale. If you find a good price, consider buying extra and freezing a portion to protect yourself from more price swings in the coming weeks. And finally, the most important point, watch your receipts every time you shop. These price increases are happening quietly, unevenly, but very systematically. If consumers do not keep a close eye on basic items like potatoes, the financial consequences will soon reach far beyond the kitchen. Number 4, broccoli. There was a time when broccoli was the thing many kids would push to the side of their plate, but in recent years, that has changed. This vegetable has gradually become a staple in the diets of many adults, especially those over 50 who are paying closer attention to heart health, digestion, and blood sugar. Now, in just a short span of time, broccoli has landed on the list of foods that American shoppers have to think twice about. At supermarkets like Walmart, Publix, and Meijer, the price for a pound of fresh broccoli has crossed the $3 mark in many areas, a price that just a few months ago would have been considered unreasonable for such an everyday vegetable. On top of that, many retailers have stopped selling whole heads, switching instead to pre-cut bags that weigh less but cost more per pound. This shift is not just surprising, it is disrupting household shopping routines. Broccoli used to be a weekly purchase, ready to be stir-fried, steamed, turned into soup, or tossed into a salad. Now, every trip to the store comes with hesitation. Do I really need to get it today? Or should I swap it for something else? That hesitation, small as it may seem, is spreading. In densely populated areas like California, Illinois, and Oregon, shoppers have reported pockets of shortages at major chain locations. Some days only the frozen version is available. Some weeks prices rise, but quality drops with heads starting to wilt or turn yellow just 2 days after purchase. What is unusual here is not the fact that prices are going up, but the speed and unpredictability of it. Broccoli is not a rare food, yet lately it is acting like a commodity with price swings more like seafood. One day it is expensive, the next day it is gone from the shelves. This change puts consumers on the back foot. Planning weekly meals used to be straightforward. Broccoli was a reliable, versatile ingredient that fit into all kinds of dishes and was easy to prepare. Now, buying vegetables requires the same kind of flexibility as buying gas. Compare prices, calculate how much you actually need, and sometimes skip it altogether. Replacing broccoli is not as simple as it sounds. Not everyone enjoys kale or bok choy. Green beans or carrots do not always work as substitutes without altering the flavor or the nutritional balance of the meal. The solution right now is not to wait for prices to drop, but to adapt. If your go-to vegetable no longer fits your budget, adjusting how often you use it instead of cutting it out completely can help you maintain both nutrition and spending. Another option is to buy in bulk through family combos or community shares, a model that is starting to make a comeback in some northwestern neighborhoods. A vegetable once overlooked is now testing the flexibility of American households. And if broccoli stays expensive in the weeks ahead, many families will face a tough question: keep it for the health benefits or cut it for the sake of the budget. Number 5, carrots. Among the vegetables that regularly show up on American dinner tables, carrots have long been considered one of the most resilient items when it comes to price swings. Not because they were dramatically cheaper, but because their price stability over the years has been unusually strong for fresh produce. That stability is starting to crack, and it is cracking quietly. At Walmart, Target, and many regional chains like H-E-B and Wegmans, the price for a 1-pound bag of carrots has now climbed past $1.39, a threshold that just 6 months ago would have been seen as uncompetitive. The larger 2 or 5-pound bags, once a favorite for big families and older shoppers, no longer come with the same discounts. In fact, in some northern states, these bigger bags are being replaced with smaller portions, while the price stays the same. You can see the shift clearly by watching how people shop. Carrots used to be tossed into the cart near the end of a trip, quick, easy, no second thought. Now shoppers pause at the display. They compare brands washed versus unwashed, pre-cut versus whole. And sometimes they put the bag back and move on without buying. This price change doesn't just chip away at budgets, it disrupts habits. Carrots used to be the backup plan vegetable. Inexpensive, easy to store, and versatile. But when even this dependable staple starts climbing quickly, households are forced to rethink their entire meal plan. Many families report switching from large bags to buying by the pound. Others have turned to canned or frozen carrots, sacrificing freshness and texture. Those who can't swap them out for nutritional reasons are left with one choice: reduce portions. The effects spill outside home kitchens. Small convenience stores and family-owned restaurants are rethinking the price of salads, side dishes, and carrot juice. They either cut portion sizes, raise menu prices, or remove the item entirely. This creates a second ripple effect. Consumers aren't just paying more at the grocery store, they're also paying more or getting less at cafes, takeout counters, and office lunches. The short-term advice: for carrots, It makes more sense right now to buy loose rather than pre-bagged. Check expiration dates closely since some retailers are speeding up inventory turnover. And if your household can coordinate buying in bulk from local farmers markets and splitting the cost with others can help. In some communities, neighbors are even bringing back the old veggie share habit, a survival tactic from past recessions that might just make sense again. Number 6, onions. If you cook regularly now, might be the time to reconsider your shopping habits. Instead of grabbing a 3-pound bag of onions, like you used to, try buying them individually. Or if you can team up with others at local farmers markets to buy in bulk and split the cost. This isn't just penny pinching anymore. It's a necessary adjustment when onions, once the cheapest, most common staple, are quietly but clearly breaking out of their long-time price stability. According to updates from Whole Foods and Walmart, the average price of a pound of white onions has jumped nearly 40 cents compared to this time last year. That may not sound like much, but if you go by the average American household's consumption around 3 to 4 pounds a week, the extra monthly cost could be enough to cover another full meal. What makes this price jump tricky is that onions aren't a main dish. They're a base ingredient. The thing you toss into soups, sauces, stews, and roasts. And because they don't sit in the spotlight on the dinner table, their price often slips under the radar until the total at checkout suddenly climbs, and you're left wondering why. That's starting to change. In places like New Jersey, Wisconsin, and Arizona, shoppers are getting more selective. No more grabbing big bags without thinking. Many now pick each bulb carefully. Some are swapping white onions for red or purple when the price is better. Others have even turned to pre-cut dried onions, once dismissed as a lazy option. Supermarkets are reacting too. Some have shrunk the display space for fresh onions and expanded their prepped or mini-packaged options. Onions are no longer positioned right next to the budget-friendly produce section, but pushed toward the back, mixed in with items whose prices swing more wildly. This makes price changes harder to notice, and easier for shoppers to overshoot their budget. Restaurants are showing signs of the same strain. Commercial kitchens, fast food chains, and family diners are scaling back their onion use. Onion rings are sliced thinner. Beef sandwiches may lose that layer of sautéed onions. Or worse, menu items with onions see a quiet price bump with no explanation. The risk here is that few people think of onions as a financial hazard. They're familiar, long-lasting, versatile, and in nearly every American kitchen. But that's exactly why their price jump hits harder than expected. When a basic ingredient goes unstable, the math on your entire recipe book changes. If you're still buying onions the way you always have now, might be the time to adapt. No need to panic, but do stay alert. Onions may not be the priciest thing in your cart yet. They're one of the silent drivers that can push your grocery bill over the edge, especially in a time when food prices are shifting fast. Number 7, bell peppers. If there is one vegetable that makes a price jump impossible to miss, it is the bell pepper. Partly because its bright, vivid colors make it stand out, but also because its price is often printed big and bold on the display sign. These days, that number alone is enough to make many shoppers set it right back down. In less than 2 months, the price of a single red bell pepper in many U.S. supermarkets has gone from $1.19 to over $1.89, even topping $2 in states like Colorado, Michigan, and California. The kicker is that the increase is not evenly spread across colors. Red and yellow peppers, which are grown less often and usually reserved for special dishes, are climbing the fastest. Green peppers are now starting to creep up in price too, wiping out the just switch to the cheaper kind option for many families. This shift is making it harder for consumers, especially middle-aged and retired shoppers, to plan meals. Bell peppers used to be the kind of extra ingredient you added for a touch of sweetness, a pop of color, and a little crunch. Now, tossing just 2 into a stir-fry can bump the total meal cost by nearly 20%. For those living on pensions or Social Security checks, that is not something you can ignore. Instead of buying them in bulk or grabbing all 3 colors like before, many families are now picking them one by one. Some skip the red and yellow entirely and go for green only. Others switch to frozen or pre-sliced packs, even if it means sacrificing freshness and flavor. And plenty of shoppers are cutting bell peppers from the list altogether, swapping them for other vegetables, or only buying them when there is a deep discount. Some grocery chains are trying to soften the blow by selling peppers by weight. bundling them into set-price combos, or tossing them into salad mix packs. But the core problem remains. Most shoppers can tell that no matter how you package it, the total price they are paying is noticeably higher than this time last year. The ripple effect is showing up beyond home kitchens. Restaurants, buffets, and barbecue spots are adjusting menus. Salads come with less bell pepper. Roasted pepper toppings for pizzas and sandwiches are getting swapped out for other vegetables. Some places have removed roasted peppers entirely from breakfast plates or Mexican dishes where they were once a staple. Here's the real takeaway. Americans are no strangers to food prices going up and down. But when an ingredient once seen as just decorative can send meal costs sharply higher, it is a clear sign that something deeper is shifting in the fresh produce economy. The best move for now is to time your purchases to weekly specials. Choose whole peppers instead of pre-cut, and if possible, go in with friends or neighbors to buy larger quantities and split them up. At this point, each pepper is no longer just an ingredient. It is a test of how well we can adapt to an era of unstable prices. When the most familiar staples in your grocery basket, from tomatoes to potatoes to bell peppers, all break past the safe price zone, the real question is no longer just what can I buy to save money. It becomes how much in this consumer system is truly out of our control. Prices do not just reflect supply and demand, they reflect trust. And when people begin to lose trust in the stability of the basics, that is the moment you know a period of major turbulence has begun.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.